there. Number 3 in the clean version, salary adjustments. It's just a heading, and it says salary adjustments. There's nothing underneath it. And when you look at that, I wanted to point that out simply because, well, first of all, they allowed us to include a heading named salary adjustments, which from my perspective is a positive thing. And I hope that you feel that way as well. You know, last year, faculty, within Article 20, faculty received a 3% recurring increase to the base that was recurring, the $2,500 non-recurring stipend increase to overload pay, the starting salary schedule was obviously increased hugely, and the college continued to cover 100% of all increases to health insurance. I assured the trustees and President Higgins I would remind everyone of all of those sorts of things that were included last year. So the fact that the trustees are interested in continuing conversation with the college and requested additional information for us to bring back before we could present a proposal related to a salary adjustment. I hope that you are encouraged by that. We're not in a position to discuss anything or field questions related to salary adjustments today, but I did just want to address that because I'm well aware that that is where there's a great deal of interest. So I kind of wanted to start with that. When you look at the other pieces of Article 20, very likely, perhaps we could just start at the beginning. And I'm looking at the red line version, if that is a good way to kind of go about it. In number 2, starting salary, we just deleted out items that were not really relevant. So there are some lines you can see that were deleted out that were included in the first version of Article 20 and last year's version of Article 20 because that was our first. And so striking, just kind of moving forward with a clean version. So I think some of that stuff is really quite obvious. There are no more, we currently do not have any 11-month contract faculty. So that is at the bottom there of number 2, why we struck that section there. We don't intend to have future 11. On page 3, number 3, we have already discussed salary adjustments. Again, part 4, other supplemental pay. Again, that's striking a section that's no longer really relevant that related back to prior contracts. So that's why we deleted that section. Within this, and if you have a question, please.
So before we move on, let's talk about that the other supplemental pay. Mm-hmm. So my thinking is even though that was rolled over into base pay and really no longer applies, but some people still have that money. Does that make sense? If there is an issue sometimes in the future, then if this has been removed from the collective bargaining agreement, then there is no documentation that this actually happened. So we would like that to remain in the article, even though it's sort of irrelevant. The time, date, no sort of thing says it's gone and it's not going to happen again. You know, as far as the college is concerned, there's nobody can come back and say, I want this money now. But we want it just for grievance, potential grievance issues that might come up some years.
Yeah, we'll talk in Congress. Yeah. In the next section, salary adjustments for supplemental assignments here. I think since we did this last version, I think I might have had 4 different titles. So it was just kind of going through all the different title changes that some of us have gone through in the past few months. Kind of cleaning that up is what that is there. Under the next portion, under Part A, extra teaching assignments. Again, that first part I just struck as it related to the timing of the original ratification. In B, again, getting my title consistent. Part C is where it looks like we're doing a little bit more change. I wanted to kind of talk about that. It previously said Arts and Sciences Curriculum Coordinator, and that is the former department chairs. So what we're doing here is actually cleaning this up and then not limiting curriculum coordinators to arts and sciences and enabling that faculty leadership role to be applicable to other areas as well. And then you can see as it goes down through the text, we made other changes to make it more broadly applicable. For that reason, we added to the appropriate dean/director instead of just making it specific to arts and sciences. The Z drive is something specific to arts and sciences, so we put shared drive, so that's the relevant department drive. Dean director changes. And then again, those changes, I'm on page 5 now, and in the paragraph about the application process, we added language in here about if a curriculum coordinator position becomes vacant before the end of the 3-year term, about the process for how long that would last. This didn't, the replacement position. This hasn't been an issue, but as we've been doing this for a year, we were like, oh, gee, I wonder what would happen. And so rather than there being question, we thought we would add clarification as to how we would handle that prior to there being a situation where there was an issue. Once we thought that this would become a situation. The evaluation cycle for curriculum coordinator, we've already been doing this. It just wasn't included in this. So folks who have served as curriculum coordinators are already well aware that we had that. It just wasn't part of that, and it was in other areas, so we thought we would include it there as well. When you look at this, the box related to the stipend, some of the changes there were treated in alphabetical order. So that's pretty simple. And then you'll see the addition of a few other departments. These weren't actually requested, but it came to our attention after the last draft, was closed. It's like, geez, Florida School of the Arts, why don't they have a curriculum coordinator? That would be great. They didn't because it had been limited to arts and science. And so that's why it hadn't been on the radar. But when we started thinking, how could we expand this to have more opportunities for faculty leadership? It occurred to us that this would be a great way to engage faculty in that way. So flow arts has been added. And in this tier 2, we added teacher education as well. So those are there. And then I added language after that about to give us the flexibility if we came up with other departments, other curricular areas that could benefit from faculty leadership in that same way, that we could do that without having to reopen this article in order to name additional faculty leaders. Any questions about that section? Great. Okay, so in part, and then I think continuing on with the name changing.
I do have one question. That was when we talked about really job descriptions are supposed to be in a different article, right? And some of this is pay, but some of it's job descriptions.
Yeah, so it's we're getting there, but we can do it first, I guess. Yeah. So in the original draft of this that we are currently using, since the curriculum coordinator positions were described and paid in that case, so that's why we thought that was a good idea to put that in this article, since it was the article that's reopened. But what Kathy was getting to with the campus library or librarian / change to library manager is not a particular case where that applies. They were originally paid $2,000. According to this, they'll still be paid $2,000, so there's no money difference to them. And the only thing that is added is extra duties, which is not open for negotiation. It's in Article 12, is list responsibilities and duties of the faculty members. And don't really think that this should go into this part. And in the future, we'll probably look at taking the curriculum coordinators out of this article as well, since this is only deals with wages.
Yeah. So the intent there was not to add extra duties, but it was actually the intent for doing that was to actually mirror the structure of what we were trying to do was to come up with a parallel structure between some of these things,
Right.
between the curriculum coordinators, the faculty leadership roles. And so that is really how that came up. But
we recognize the language and this being the same thing.
so we could look at how let me think about that and see what we can do. But the goal is not to. These are all already responsibilities of the person who holds those positions. So none of these are new responsibilities, and I wouldn't think any of the people with those responsibilities would think anything new was on this list. But we can look at that. And,
So
that's not a problem.
So that's something that we want to, always kind of keep in mind that
Yep.
this is limited to wages, and when we add, and that's what Kathy was saying, is when we add,
You're exactly right. We
descriptions,
understand.
it goes in another article rather than just
Yeah.
Article 12.
Okay, that's a good point. So we were cleaning up in part G language again, and in H it's language. So I really think that the tutoring, we're moving in L, we're just calling those tutoring centers, not academic. So that's just a little, I don't think that means anything. Yeah. In M, so I'm on page 8. So M and N, these are new. What I did want to mention though, before I move to those, were two of actually on the previous page, on page 7, the distance learning quality training and course development project and the tutoring stipend. Those are two things that were really new projects that were introduced through somewhat the collective bargaining process. And they weren't perhaps the main priority of the faculty through the collective bargaining, but I just thought this was an opportunity to kind of share some of the positive things that have come out of this. And with the distance learning course quality project, we actually have had 38 courses that have gone through that. The college has spent more than $20,000 compensating faculty on course development, course improvement. So that's exciting that number of faculty have been engaged in that, and faculty are continuing to work on their course development. In the tutoring stipends, we are on track by the end of this semester to have provided 640 hours of tutoring. Faculty will have done 640 hours of tutoring on our 3 campuses. That paid about $16,000 to faculty. So that's great. I'm excited to have seen that people embracing that, and we're providing those hours and those services to students as well. That kind of led us to thinking of ways in which we could potentially try to provide some more opportunities for faculty in the same sort of a vein. So on page 8, I have two new items here that I wanted to present. M, the distance learning course accessibility project. So faculty who complete the fundamentals of accessibility online training course, it's a module. I see that Jay posted something up there. I'm just going to take the question. Okay, let me just finish this one paragraph. So the distance learning course accessibility project. So faculty who complete the fundamentals of accessibility online training course and whose courses receive an ally score of 90% or higher, or who have at least a 20% point improvement in their overall ally score, would receive a $250 stipend. This isn't a huge lift. We don't believe asking folks to do this. The reality is we believe faculty, once they start running their courses through the ally tool, will want to, it's a pretty cool thing that our distance learning folks are going to start running out, showing faculty how to use. And then this is a way to kind of compensate folks for putting a little time in to improve their course quality. So we think the majority of folks are going to be excited to do it. And then we can also provide a little stipend for doing that. Jay, did you have a question for me?
Yeah, just a quick question. It could be really for anybody, but and it goes back to something we didn't talk about, or it wasn't changed. But I was reading through as you were going through the honors student. Did we double check that it is 150? I've seemed to do a lot And I thought it was a $200 thing you got for honor student, but I could be completely wrong. So I'm just checking that out.
I will double check.
Okay, that's it. Yeah, sorry.
Okay.
So on that, so just amongst our committee here, we weren't really familiar with what the bundled accessibility training is.
It's gonna, so it's gonna be,
I've never heard of it.
yeah. So basically, it's a little, the concept is that we'll create an online module that you would go through that would show you how to use the Ally tool and what you need to do to improve your accessibility score, how to get that. The Ally tool is, it kind of happens all by itself. So you'll push a button, you'll get a score for an accessibility score for your class. And it'll say this course has these challenges these things that could present a challenge to a student who has a visual impairment or this issue. And so it'll give you a score, and then it'll tell you what you can do to improve your score. And so this is a way of kind of packaging that and showing you how to do that. Is the thought, so that you don't have to go to a class, you don't have to do, it's a more of an independent sort of activity for you to work on that. And so that's kind of how we were trying to structure that, so that folks who want to work on it can do it on their own time. And it doesn't have to be so much of a start and a finish. It's where we're all doing it as a big chunk of folks doing it together.
So a couple of questions. How long is this course? I mean, it hasn't been created yet. You're thinking of it being like
It's
a 1 hour, a 5 hour.
it's a short period of time. So what we did, Kathy, what our concept is when we did this, we were looking at the workload for this relative to the tasks of the other distance learning projects and trying to put a dollar amount on it comparable to this is, we think, a good comparable to the other tasks. This seems really, this is quite fair, we think, comparable to the others. Some people it's going to take longer, but we're looking at, some people might run their course through and already be at 90, and your course is already super accessible. Some people might run their course through and it's going to be quite low. And that's why we put the 20% improvement, because some folks whose scores are low might not ever get to 90. Because perhaps they have more images or this or that aren't prepared well for that situation. But we still want you to be able to hit the benchmark by improving. And that's the trick. It's getting it better, making it better for students in order to achieve that quality.
And so would this apply to only online courses? Because all the courses in Canvas have outlines, right? So is it for all courses, everything you put on Canvas, or your face-to-face courses as well? Because it says it will be an online training, but it doesn't specifically say it will be for online courses.
The training is,
yeah, the training is online, but is this for courses, only for courses that are distance learning courses?
you're going to do it for a specific semester, and you're going to achieve it for your courses for that window. Well, it's not something you have to maintain.
So what she's learning, so I don't teach any online classes, but I have a ton of material on Canvas, and I already have an Ally store. So what we're asking is this $250 stipend available for people who are only teaching online, or anybody?
Anybody can earn it.
Okay. And so all of your courses for one semester.
So
Whatever.
all of your courses, or what?
A particular course for a particular semester, you have to do to earn it, or we have to do it for all of your courses.
We're doing it so we'll flesh out the language on this a little bit before.
Early, yeah, we've got
I'll
a
work
little
with-
bit more clarification.
Let me work on this a little bit. It needs to be 3 times.
Yeah.
And then starting with 20 percentage points improvement, starting from like take the course and then you by the end of the semester, if you've increased it 20% by the time you took the course to, by the time frame is specified.
From when you, I think from when you, you can have a starting ally score and an ending ally score. So there's a benchmark. So you can have a run on, and just we can track.
Okay, so
you can define, that could be a defined window. For somebody might want it, somebody might do the 20-point score in a day, and somebody else might spend a longer period of time on it.
so it's not, it doesn't have to be a specific window, it's very individual.
We want people to improve their courses. It doesn't have to be like a race that we all cross the finish line the same day. Ultimately, if we get the courses better, we've met our.
What if I'm hypothetically teaching an online astronomy course and I'm already using the LA tool to improve my materials, which it's not that difficult to do, it's pretty easy to do. But do I now find myself saying, if I wait until next year to do this, then I can get paid for it, or if I do it right now? Let's say I get where now I've got 90% for my astronomy class. Right now, it's probably 30 or 40. If I do that now, I'm missing out on the chance to pay for the next time. Or when I say, look, I did this last year, it's 90%, got me a check.
We're not paying people. We're doing a one-time stipend for this. So there's a $250 moment, and then it's gone. So once you get it, you got it. Because like you said, Ransom, this is not super chat. So in the online training part, no one should get hung up on that. You really probably don't need to do it. This is like for somebody who might have a question how to do it. We're just going to put like a little tutorial for stuff. There's going to be somebody that doesn't know where to start. And so we're trying to create like a little tool for that person who doesn't know where to start. And if Ransom doesn't need to watch it, then he doesn't need to watch it. He's just going to improve his course. And if his courses are already at 90, we're going to give him the $250 and move on.
Yeah, that was the only, because we have had one of the professional development courses done a lot with this, and especially like tables, objects and stuff. So those of us who did that, probably started working on that, and then.
Well, I mean, I'm sitting with a bunch of science people and you know, so science people and groups, but with science people are some of the folks who are going to have the hardest time getting to 90 if they have a bunch of images, and we know that. So that's why we're not like you have to have 100, because everybody has to have a 90. Somebody's not. There will be some folks who are just like, well, I can't do that. I can't go rename all those things. But they might be able to get from 50 to 70 and make a huge difference in the class. And so that would be worth it. And so that's what we're trying to talk about here. We're trying to create a benchmark that is makes a significant difference, but that is meaningful for and attainable for pretty much everybody who wants to put in a little bit of work.
That's nice to incentivize.
That most people are probably going to do anyway.
Well, down the line, I foresee accreditation coming in and saying you have to have.
You do? Yeah. Okay, so I'll flesh out the language. But yes, Bruce.
I just want to say, I think it's great, the idea of rewarding the 20% increase or the 20% and rewarding improvements.
Thank you. Okay, so then the next item N, faculty club sponsor stipends. This is in the same vein of there's folks who do more, and so if we can kind of come up with a way of acknowledging that. I think I was talking about this with Dr. Crawford yesterday. It's not as if we're trying, and with a lot of this, it's not as if we're trying to say that we are paying faculty fully for all of this time spent on any of these tasks. This is more in the lines of an honorarium. This is recognition for extra time put in. And so the concept here is, faculty who are selected to serve as a student club sponsor, coming up with a stipend system for that. And so we have a range here of $250 to $800 the thought process was there are some clubs that are a great deal more active and work than others. Phi Beta Kappa, SGA, Rotaract. It depends on the campus. It depends on the club. And I think we're aware of that. And but the concept would be that to try to pay faculty a stipend. Immediately, people start to say, "Well, what if there's 2 advisors for a club? What if this? What if that?" These are things that we would work through. If there's a main, I know in some of the clubs, like there's a primary advisor, and then there's like a helper, and that sort of thing. A co-advisor, we can figure it out. I'm quite confident. I don't know that it is in fact, a good use of time to break it down to the minutia. I think we start to pigeonhole ourselves, and it is to have the range is my preference here.
Yeah, a quick comment in that question. One, I think this is a great idea, not because, I run a couple of clubs, and just like we were talking about with Clay, who's also a long-time PTA, just like you said, we don't do it for money, but I think it's great that hopefully it'll encourage some other people to take it on and therefore increase extracurricular activities. Because so I think it's really super for that. So I'm glad you guys are doing that. But the question is, like, I don't care how much money I get for it, but I send out emails to students all the time. I'm not going to have to keep track of, like, I made an email today or 2 emails today. I don't know. Okay.
I don't. None of us want a log of the emails that you've sent.
It takes so much time.
Yeah, please don't CC the emails to me. That would be awful. But no, we do. I think that there would be there's a contract and agreement, just like there are for other things. But no.
Okay.
There's already the at the beginning of the term, the meetings that advisors have to go to, those sorts of things. I think there might just be one more degree of but we were envisioning you turn in once a semester a list of the meetings that were held, that sort of thing. But we're not looking for anything intrusive.
Okay, so it's not burdensome paperwork. Okay.
We don't want a bunch of paperwork.
Okay.
But just like you said, we all believe that faculty serving as club sponsors, club advisors, that is a great way to promote student engagement, student retention, student success. And faculty don't do it for the money, but if we can, do anything to kind of acknowledge that time and effort, we want to do that. Okay, and then that's really kind of it, other than name changes in here. So also before I kind of stop talking, we had put in the email that our next Board of Trustees meeting is in April, and we had suggested the afternoon of Friday, April 29th. We believe that by then we would have had time to have an executive session with the board and have moved forward and gotten you something in advance, and that would be a good day for a meeting where we could have a lot to talk about. If you wanted to have an interim meeting, if you wanted to bring something back other than this, to us, we're open to that. What is your preference? But we are not going to be in a position to discuss that whole in this until that date.
So I think we do want that interim meeting in between. So as well as the one that you asked already. You finished with your part? I have one other thing that I kind of let you skip over there because there really wasn't any changes on it. But this is an issue, and Kevin Kelly, who is our full arts representative, wouldn't have been the better person to talk about this, but I think I can do it justice. on page 5 at the bottom, and page 6 is the floor director and technical director.
Right?
So Kevin does that kind of work, obviously. And we've talked about the amount of work that goes into producing a show. And it's obviously a very important part of the to have shows. He, in this past, he did a show, I guess, which one was that? He told me, in the lobby or something like that?
Yeah.
Whatever it is. Anyway, he actually took got an app for his phone that would log the time he spent working on that. And he came out as 200 hours for that one show. He said that was probably the shortest amount of time that he has spent on any show since he's been here. And that other people have spent even more time than that. When you divide that by the dollar amount that is in that language, I guess, is the way of looking at it, it doesn't come out to be very much. So, and it's kind of vague as to what that would be. So at $500 for 200 hours is pretty cheap labor. $2.50 an hour. Even at the 3,500, again, we don't know who gets what and for what reason. So it seems like there could be a huge variation in there. Maybe not such a huge variation in the work, but huge variation in pay. So he has proposed another version of doing that. And we don't have this in writing. I can provide it to you, but just to tell you today, he was suggesting for the director. So he's got 3 categories. You've got a director, you've got a musical director, and a technical director / designer. And each one of those, he says, works at different levels and spends a different amount of time, depending on what their particular job is for the show that's going on. And he has proposed for the director of a $2,000, it's the word we used here. Yeah, well, stipend's fine. For per show for the director, $2,000 for the director, $1,500 per show for the musical director, and $1,000 for the technical director / that puts them a little more in line with the curriculum coordinator, like we did with the library issues. So that puts them, if they do a couple of shows in a year, then that's $4,000. And even at that point, you're saying it's 400 hours, so or more for the director, and then less for the others. It's one of those things where obviously the major part is actually doing shows and having that experience, and those people have kind of been working. So when you consider doing 200 hours, that you're technically not compensated for in the normal salaries, because their salaries are paid to everybody else. And then it would be to the student's advantage, and obviously for the work that the employees are doing, pay something closer to a grade. So, and I will put that in writing, send that to you as well. So, what do you want to do for me? So there was the issue that y'all wanted to talk about, and I know nobody's going to make a decision on anything today. I would assume. What was the other thing that you were going to talk about?
You wanted us to look at the supplemental pay from page 3, the original number 4 that has been struck through.
Right. Yes, that.
Putting that back in.
And I don't know if you want to give an answer on the library, campus library manager today, or if you want to,
Is it necessary that we do all of that right now, or can we? Yeah,
but,
I mean, we have to have multiple conversations.
Right, and that's why, I wanted to do the interim, so we can work out some of these. You can talk about it on your side, we can talk about it on our side, and get back. So, kind of the advantage of having multiple meetings. So, like, we got this yesterday, we did meet last night and talked about it, but sometimes, to come up with a good counter or, to go through and come up with something that's reasonable, is going to require that back and forth, conversation between both sides to come up with something that we can all agree on. And so, the more meetings or the quicker we have that information, then the more we can digest it on our side and get back to something that's an alternative, and then give you the same opportunity to look at that as well. Just make it more efficient time.
And the April 29th date is, it includes 10 days after the caucus that we will, for the executive session with the board, rather than it just being 2 days after that meeting. That's the intent.
So what is, I don't have a calendar before
That's
me.
the last thing on the party.
So that one is the 29th.
Yeah.
It is.
And what about the interim? Yeah, trying to think for that one. Fridays are always obviously good for us. Especially since some of us teach nights and labs.
Maybe we could just back and forth to each other and kind of do it
Yeah.
that way and just caucus together, meet together and.
That would- What is,
Right, whatever. So,
so y'all have issues with every Friday between now and April 29th?
well, what you guys are looking for, you need to have another meeting with the board, or discuss it before you're prepared to do that, right? So, having a meeting before you have that meeting.
Well, we can work out between our two groups, they present it to the board, but if we have these conversations, then what you go to the board with will be kind of the final thing that you want to present to the board, that you can tell the board that both sides agree to, but we can't do that unless we have conversations in between. That makes sense?
And I don't think that's the way the board works. We have to talk with them before we bring proposals
To us.
compensation, yeah. April 20. They want to have time to get the board and have the executive.
Let's think about that, because basically that is that's not much of a negotiations going on with that measure, you know what I mean? So you gave it to us today, we looked at it, we've agreed to most of it, and there's a couple things that we clean up. But the board ultimately has the power to reject anything that you and I agree on anyway, correct? The board's purpose is to approve or disapprove many things, and they can reject anything at any given point, right? So whether or not you have their blunt, or you make the offer, is not really relevant, because the board can actually reject it.
Dr. J says we can work out some of the other issues besides adjusting pay.
Right, yeah.
Then work out pay adjustment at April 29th.
Right, so what I'm thinking is that, the descriptions that are in Article 12, that we're saying that probably should be in Article 12. So we're not gonna address that salary adjustment because that is something that the board is going to obviously approve ahead of time. So we're not talking about that one. You can present the full arts things to the board, and they can reject it or not, you know. And we'll know that at the next time we meet, is in the April 29th kind of thing. But I think that,
What are you proposing?
so that interim meeting does not require board approval of anything, because the board has the final say.
I don't think we think it does. I think we don't know that there's not a Friday that Dr. Powers can come. So,
There is, just it's a morning and not an afternoon.
Yeah, but-
is there another afternoon? Is there another common day that you guys have? I didn't pull your schedules.
Yeah, so we can look at that too. We're,
It's hard.
you know, yeah, we're all over the place. Like I said, we met last night, and I'm sure you want to meet tonight. Or whatever we can do. We could even do a Zoom if we want to do that, and then, you know, it cuts down travel and it saves time. So, you know, that's a possibility.
I think evenings are fine.
I was also, my question was, other than, so I feel like I understand. I think we understand what you have, the feedback you have provided to us today. Are there additional things that you want us to, that you
There
were,
could
if
be.
we had a midpoint meeting, there, that is what I was trying to understand. So there, if we had a midpoint meeting, you would then likely have other additional things.
Yeah, so
That you
we
had.
have something that we tabled from our side, that we didn't want to discuss today without getting more information on. So there is something else. I didn't put it in a, very extreme kind of thing. I'm just saying, it's one of those things we're gonna put out there, and, you know, and the board will approve it or not approve it, we'll live with whatever. You know, I'm saying it's not of extreme importance, but we have something else we're thinking about proposing.
So you will bring that back at the interim meeting.
Right.
Would you like for them to send me their availability other days of the week and I can coordinate?
So we can work that out within our group, and then we'll look at what we've got, and we'll let you know. And then you can pick what works best. for
So
you.
you're gonna propose some dates to us?
Yeah. And if you have, a particular time of day or whatever, so obviously, we obviously teach during the day. So, you know, the morning's out, well, I guess nothing's out, but I don't like to miss my classes, so. I've been here for 20 years, and I probably missed 10 classes or less my whole time here, so I don't like to miss my classes. Especially near the end, but we can come up with something. So do we want to talk? No?
And so, so, okay. All right.
Do we want to caucus now? Do you want to caucus later?
Well, that was.
Maybe we should just clarify.
Yeah.
10 minutes.
Yeah, sure.
That's a great thing.
And maybe you guys just talk amongst yourselves and we caucus really fast. Is there
Yeah.
Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday afternoon, where you all have an hour at the same time that you're free? If you could quickly come up with that, then we can set something, because it's gonna be tricky to figure this out. And
Yeah,
the longer,
Wednesdays, I teach Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. So Thursday's my.
okay, so you guys figure that out, you got 10 minutes, like figure out, like you can come up with one, you can come up with 1 hour somewhere, we can do it in a Zoom or something. That would be, I think establishing a time today would be good.
Yeah.
Otherwise, we're gonna blink our eyes, it'll be April 29th,
Oh,
and we
yeah.
won't have found a date yet.
Okay. Time runs faster when we get to the last 2 weeks of the semester.
So,
Okay, so it's 2:50, it's 2:52. Do you want to say,
10 minutes.
3:10? Just have time to walk. Okay, 3:10.
And Jay, can you like speak to us through Dawn's phone? for our caucus.
We'll stay, yeah, I think they're going, they're going to work. Oh, we're
We're
in
gonna be in
the.
Yes.
Okay, okay.
Okay,
Well, I think Jay said he's is he kind of like, is he not coming back for this?
Oh,
Yeah, that's okay. He-
Okay, well, we're back. Were you guys able to pick a date or potential
A Thursday at 3:00.
Thursday?
On this one's been-
Next Thursday?
Not next.
No, not next.
Not the 7th. I'm sorry, what's next?
Not next Thursday.
Which
So
Thursday?
not the 31st. So the following one would
Not
be the
the-
7th. Is that right, April?
You said not the
Oh,
7th.
they said not the 7th.
Not the 7th?
3:00 on the 7th. That's what they're looking at. That's what you're looking at, right, 3:00?
3:00 on the Thursday. Doesn't matter what day.
Did you say the 7th doesn't work for you? No, the afternoon.
Okay.
For me. 3:00.
That'd be great.
And so by 3:00 April 7th, you guys will be prepared with else. Okay.
Just a little bit more to work on.
Okay.
And they hopefully won't take long and be soon. I know there's a way for us to do it together. That's what I'm.
well, we can get together. and say,
Oh, yeah, that's true. Like those of us that are on,
on each camp.
right on St. Augustine.
We can listen out.
That's, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Dawn, Captain, and I can just get together in my lab room and set that up to, okay, so when I'm doing my class.
And the same.
So,
So just for clarification, April 7th, 2022 at 3:00 by Zoom, right?
Yes. So do you have a time for the 29th? I didn't write that down.
I think it was on there, 2 o'clock or 3
We're
o'clock.
going to do 2 to 4 again.
Okay, yeah, that's.
Time?
2 to 4 on April 29th. But April 7th is 3.
40 open.
2 o'clock is better for me.
And that'll be
Yeah,
in person.
yeah, thank you.
Did you want to do the April 29th through Zoom or in person?
I think in person.
At what campus?
This is where the most people are, so those of us who are,
They are.
yeah.
And.
Melanie's going like, St. Augustine is so nice.
Closer to home.
Another place to go to dinner.
Ron's from West St. Augustine too.
We're just,
It doesn't, we'll decide, it really doesn't matter. If y'all want,
then here's where, Susan had just inquired and she has a room on hold on all 3 campuses, so we were just trying to,
yeah,
we don't want to lock up 3 rooms, we want to let 2 of us go. So,
Isn't Vodka like for like the best middle ground? Like there's people that are Orange Park, and people at St. Augustine. Isn't Vodka kind of the middle? No? Okay.
Yeah, it's no harder to get either way.
Oh.
I mean, like, it's just hard to get to St. Augustine as it is to get here either way, and vice versa.
So nobody has strong feelings. Why don't we go?
well, I just,
Like, all right, good, all right.
okay. Well, then I think we got a lot done. Thank you.
Thank you all.
I think we're good. Thanks, Adam.
Yeah,
Think we're
thanks.
done.
Thanks, Adam.
Yeah, move to adjourn.
Bye. Bye, my friends.
Here,